peace, love and tolerance, and is revered by a quarter of the world's population. That's about 1.8 billion Muslims. The sort of terrorism which visited Manchester and London in recent weeks came about in the last 2 decades and has no connection with our holy book of Islam. Islam is not the problem. However, extremists on all sides will try and say these atrocities are done in the name of God. The people who say that are on the fringes of our society. They don't. These people, they hate our freedoms and liberties. We've heard that from the politicians all the time, but the truth is, they simply hate. What has come out of London and Manchester is an enduring love which will conquer all. It is the determination of fellow human beings to stay human and not allow themselves to be sucked into a vortex of hate and fear. The examples and leadership for this haven't come from the politicians or governments, but instead they've come from ordinary people and their children, and it is their example that we should follow today. People like you here who came here today to make a point. Every candle that has been lit, every flower placed on one of the sites in Westminster, London Bridge and Manchester is a strong and potent symbol of that love, and it will overpower hate at every turn. Let me remind you of the words of Manchester victim Ellie MacLeod's great uncle, who spoke so eloquently at the 14-year-old's funeral mass on her island home of Barrow. His words really resonate. He said, in contrast to the hate that took her life, Ellie's life was and now stands as a testament forever of the world of love, innocence, goodness, kindness and faith. Those are the words that really resonate. He continued, we will look after each other, we will chase our dreams, we will love one another. It's true that many people are in fear now of becoming a victim of a terrorist attack, and that is why it is so important we come together at events like this to reassure each other. We can never diminish the horror of what happened, whether it is in London, Manchester, Glasgow or further afield. The blood of innocents in Palestine, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Kashmir and beyond weighs just as heavily on the scales. The pain and grieving of a mother in Baghdad or Damascus or Kabul is no less painful. But we must not allow these acts to change our lives. Some politicians will try and do that. And after the horrific events of 9/11, I watched a White House administration whip up the American people into a constant state of fear by invoking and using the horrific memory of that day to control its own citizens. Americans were going to bed frightened. They were waking up frightened. Some, for no logical reason, started to fear those with a beard or a hijab, and anyone else who looked like a Muslim. Seeing people pray is enough for some people to be fearful. Attacks against Muslims have spiked in recent weeks. This is all playing into the hands of the terrorists. You see, in terms of psychology, there is little to separate the political haters and the terrorists. They want to instill fear and achieve mind control. Events like this will do far more to ease our anxieties than any new laws or legislations. The question to ask governments is this: why would you want to erode our freedoms and liberties with new legislation Surely that is playing into the hands of the terrorists. What sort of response is that? Here in the UK, we are still reeling from Manchester, Westminster and London Bridge for no other reason than it is so hard to explain these events. In some ways, these atrocities have cast us adrift from logic and pushed us into uncharted territory. This makes every one of us a little more vulnerable, a little more fragile. But we must not give up any of our freedoms and liberties or relinquish our civil liberties because politicians say it is for the greater good. A classic example of what can go wrong just happened on Thursday when Theresa May tried to exploit the fear of unknown caused by Brexit. She tried to scare voters into believing that only her strong and stable leadership could save us from the unknown. How's that working out for you, Theresa? In France, after a series of devastating attacks, a state of emergency was called. Punishing the freedoms and liberties of citizens only serves the bad people and those who really would try and do us harm. I think that the British people have shown that they won't be pushed and cajoled by bullying politicians. Events like this one in George Square today was born out of one young man's desire to bring us all together, and I think Omer Mansour deserves a round of applause for what he's done. It has brought us together in an act of solidarity bound by love for our fellow human beings. So today we come together in grief, in solidarity and in love to give a message to all of those with bad intentions. We will not change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne.